The SpaceX Starship will return NASA astronauts to the moon in this decade.
When these two join forces on Artemis 3, we will land on the moon.
It won't be easy, but there are some things that are only worth doing because they are hard. And this is how it happens.
Let's talk about some factors that make this next moon landing different from the Apollo mission of the late 60s and early 70s.
Because typically, the first question that people want to ask is why it's taken so long for NASA to go back.
Did they lose the technology to land on the moon? Did they lose the skill or the knowledge to pull it off?
The most simple explanation is that NASA lost the money to land on the moon, and they never really got it back.
The current annual funding for NASA from the US government is right around $25 billion, which sounds like a lot, but it isn't.
If we adjust for inflation and stuff, then in the Apollo era of the late 1960s, NASA was receiving something like $300 billion per year.
So that's a lot less money to work with in the modern day, and that's how NASA arrived at this.
Stage 2, clear on the east side.
Copy that, lowering slowly.
Watch the clearance on level 7. Stage 2 lift proceeding nominally. Altitude holding steady. Copy. Clear to continue to the alignment mark.
Check the alignment on section 4.
Looks good from here.
Torquing bolt 7 now.
Their SLS rocket and Orion crew capsule, the best they could do with the funding that they had available.
And yes, there is a whole discussion to be had about bad project management and cost overruns on the SLS, but not in this video.
Lowering the module.
Watch the alignment on section 3.
Clear below. Stage 2 alignment holding steady. Copy that. Bring it down another meter.
For all of its many flaws, the SLS and Orion system can do some pretty amazing things, and we saw that for ourselves on the flight of Artemis 1.
As the uncrewed capsule was sent all the way to lunar orbit and back again, with no major issues. With confidence. The real problem is that sending a vehicle to lunar orbit and back is about all that SLS can do.
And this is where SpaceX comes in.
NASA couldn't afford to develop their own lunar lander the way that they had done for SLS.
If a starship can land people on Mars, then it can definitely do the same thing on the moon. All it needs a few modifications to
storage. So unlike the SLS, we have yet to see the Starship complete an entire mission profile successfully. But we have seen
So it's really just the coming back down part that SpaceX is trying to work out right now, with Starship going into their 4th flight test.
The lunar Starship is a slightly different beast from anything that we've seen so far on the launch pad at Starbase.
While the current Starship upper stage is designed to reach the low Earth orbit and then come back down to the surface in one piece.
So in many ways, this makes life easier, because the lunar variant won't need to endure the extreme heat of re-entry into Earth's atmosphere.
The current Starship design can carry somewhere between 100 and 200 metric tons of stuff into low Earth orbit.
SpaceX could probably accomplish that with what they have right now, but the problems arise when we try to go any higher, because not only is the cargo inside the Starship incredibly heavy.
On flight test number 3, Starship successfully performed an orbital fuel transfer between 2 separate tanks on the same ship. This is a pretty big deal.
Now for their next trick, SpaceX has to move fuel from one ship to another ship, meaning that we are going to see 2 ships in orbit at the same time.
When pressed for a number, Jensen said that it will take roughly 10-ish Starship launches for a single mission to the moon.
So let's imagine that the whole orbital refilling situation all goes according to plan. Elon Musk seems to think it will be pretty easy, and he does make a good point on this one.
Now, the first starships to land on the moon will not carry any people on board.
The idea right now is to send a skeleton starship for the first touchdown on the moon. Basically an empty test vehicle that...
Although on that same conference call from earlier this year, Jessica Jensen also clarified that the first lunar starship will land and...
Initially, this human has to have more.
If that all goes to plan, then the second lunar starship will be the real deal. It's going to be filled out with a crew compartment.
If everything we've just said actually happens according to plan, and if the SLS and Orion can successfully complete a crewed mission to lunar orbit and back,
This could happen in 2026.
It's very likely that the HLS lunar starship will be constructed and launched from the SpaceX facility at NASA's Kennedy.
Starbase is cool, but I think it's safe to assume that NASA wants to be a lot closer to the development of their next lunar lander and keep
The stress fractures on the main injector look stable.
Confirmed. Telemetry is green across the board.